were the product of two men, one the man who'd already experienced what the other man then wrote down, the difficulty would be resolved.
A Swiss Traven reader had suggested already in 1964 that an American had been what he called the Erlebnisträger, which means the carrier of the experience or experiences, and that it was this American who wrote the original manuscripts of the early Traven novels and stories in English, and that Marut met this man.
The possibility of this other man in Mexico haunts the Traven mystery. The idea seizes the imagination, but there is no evidence that such a person exists. So if Croves were Marut and had been living in Germany, what was his nationality? Not apparently German. His identity card gives his place of birth as San Francisco in 1882. But to claim San Francisco as your birthplace was to ensure that no one could check it. All records were destroyed in the fire and earthquake of 1906. So at this stage, there was no way of knowing whether Marut was a real name or not. When applying for his American passport, Marut told the authorities that he couldn't remember the house he had lived in San Francisco, but he did give them a list of friends of his parents in that city. None of them were traceable. He told them he'd run away from home when he was 10 and signed on a ship bound for Australia. He gave his father's name as William Marut. Now this is interesting, for an earlier rumour had it that his father was indeed William, but an altogether more distinguished William. A letter from the American consul in London refers to a photograph of Marut, saying that it reminds one of a well-known German. As editor of a subversive tract, it was curious that Marut wasn't hounded. Another curious factor was where the money to keep the magazine going came from. And the third oddity was that Marut, a revolutionary, on occasion wrote almost kindly of the Kaiser. Did he have the protection of a great man, Kaiser Wilhelm II, who was doing it all for his natural son? There were rumours at the time that the writer of the Ziegelbrenner was strangely favoured and had friends in high places. The German magazine Stern compared a photograph of Marut in later years with one of the Kaiser's sons, Crown Prince William. There's a distinct similarity. Croves himself spoke strangely on this score to Judy Stone when she first met him.
I didn't ask him a question. He said almost immediately, forget the man. What does it matter if he's the son of a Hohenzollern prince? And I was so stunned at that I really didn't know what to say.
I put it to Signora Lujan.
Yes, he looked very much like them. And we talked about the Kaiser very much.
And just for the record, let's be quite clear. What was the nationality? What was the original nationality of your husband?
My husband told me that he was born in the United States.
But this wasn't the only tale Croves told his wife.
And then other times he would say that his father had been a poor fisherman in Norway, from, of course, Scandinavian blood, but that he had died before he was born.
You didn't mind all these contradictions every time he told you a new story?
No, I thought it was also fascinating. He was such a fascinating man. And you see, to me, they were not really contradictions or lies. I mean, it was so much part of his character anyway.
Whatever the man's real name, the names he took on were unusual. Marut, Torsvan, Croves, Traven, and they're untraceable. No sign of a Marut born in San Francisco in 1882 or any other years. No record of a Torsvan or a Croves born in Chicago or any other of the American cities which had been connected with him. Names meant nothing to him.
He says, you know, the name Croves, says, but I'm fed up with it, yes, I have to. Every time I get a new name and people get to know it, the name gets famous, and I hate the name. So I must find a new name from now on.
The man Traven, also called Croves, died in Mexico City on the 26th of March, 1969. His ashes were scattered over the jungle which he'd loved. His origins, at that time, remained a mystery.
My work is important. I am not. I am not a writer. I shout. I want to be nothing but the word.
What I thought when he died, the mystery would finally be cleared up, and instead there was additional obfuscation. And today I think the man I met was B. Traven. I don't think conspiracies can be carried out so completely.
The problem of writing the biography of Traven has stumped already 4 or 5 writers. They keep running into roadblocks and stone walls and blanks in the flow of information.
In my opinion, we do not know who B. Traven was.
I think we know all we're ever likely to find out, but I'm quite certain we don't know everything that ought to be known.
I still feel that no one really knows his secret. I doubt if his present wife knows. She met him late in life, and the things that I've read seem to be another elaboration of his mystery. And I just think that Traven died with his secrets and that nobody really knows.
We think we do know. We tracked down every alias and found in every case there was no collateral, no such address or no such name or no such parents or no such record existed. Until we came to the very last one, the very last place. Once and once only, the man gave this name and this birthplace. He told them to the police in London in 1923, and for the rest of his life believed them lost in that single mouldering file. We assumed that it was yet another false trail. As with all the other names, there would be no real person hiding behind it. But from Świebodzin, here in Poland, came the reply. Herman, Albert, Otto, Maximilian Feiger was a real human being, as the birth certificate showed. Here in the town hall is the birth record. Here is the name that he gave the police in London and the date of birth. Here are the names he gave of the father and the mother. And here are the occupations he said each followed. Well, it occurred to me, might he not have borrowed the identity? Well, Wienerker was one of the aliases he used, and in this birth record, Wienerker is the maiden name of the mother. Would an imposter have known so much? Would an imposter have known the occupations of the father and mother of someone else as they were 40 years ago? But we come closer even than that. In the deposition he gave to the police in London, he said the occupation of the mother was mill hand. But here in the birth record book in Świebodzin, it's simply down as factory worker. Well, on inquiry, we found there was only one place a factory worker could gain employment at the time of the birth. There were no factories in Świebodzin. There were only mills, cloth mills, like this one. But the deepest chime, the most pregnant echo, comes from the man's father. His occupation was listed as potter. There was only one pottery in Świebodzin at that time. It stood on the site of this little farmyard here. But it wasn't a pottery as we know a pottery. It was a brickworks. His father made bricks. His father was a brick burner. And since the town was a German town, his father was der Ziegelbrenner. And there was something further. The archives at Świebodzin had yielded other names. By the time we left the town, we knew that Herman, Albert, Otto, Maximilian Feiger had brothers and sisters, and that 2 of them, Ernst and Margareta, had moved. to Germany. They would now be very old, 83 and 86, but they would be the only two people in the world able